Morning. Nice to meet you all. A year ago, I was here and I had delivered the keynote address at the International Conference of Cafe Mutual at Dubai. I'm happy to do it again this year, and I'm also quite happy to tell you that there have been so many things that have happened, which I'm going to recount over the course of my address today. My wishes to all the participants and to Cafe Mutual at the outset and for the conference to be a resounding success. Ever since last time, last time I met you, there was this fund management regulation consultation that was going on. Initially, the fund management regulations were introduced in 2022, and that itself had a lot of changes in compared to the domestic ecosystem. It was sort of countered for the international ecosystem, and we thought probably we need a lot more consultation, and that's how we brought in the fund management regulations 2022. Now, over a period of 3 years, there were a lot of things that we learned, many things that we had to sort of, imbibe lawyers, consultants, fund management entities, and other investors, large investors, also came to us and they had mentioned that okay, there's a need to revisit. While the ecosystem was indeed quite favorable, quite different, but it also requires because see the thing is internationally the capital markets ecosystem is a quite a dynamic ecosystem. It keeps changing. There are a lot of events, including geopolitical, which have an impact on all these things. So probably it would take time for each of the regulatory jurisdictions to probably counter their regulations so as to make it self-sufficient and also dynamic. So what we have done is that we did was we did consultations, and then these consultations had a lot of cross country, cross border opinions which had come to us. Apart from that, the IFSCA regularly holds something called Chintan Shivir, essentially a brainstorming session where we do have opinions. We have a lot of what you can call as views which are put across to make this ecosystem quite friendly and whatnot. So essentially, as a regulator, what do we look for, right? Where to make this ecosystem. First is what we do is that we try to make this ecosystem where there is ease of doing business. Secondly, one of the things why IFSA has also been set up for of is the innovation, right? We need to innovate. Now, before I'm also very happy to tell you that while we did introduce, when I met you last time, while we did introduce certain things in the fund management regulations, which I'm going to recount some of the salient features, I'm also happy to tell you that the environment is so dynamic that last time I met you, there was a consultation paper. This time again, there is another consultation paper. And in the meanwhile, we have also issued the new fund management regulations, which have been quite, praised quite for their user friendliness. But the dynamism is what I'm trying to sort of harp on as to which required us to once again revisit the regulations. And I'm going to tell you the certain things about that paper also. First, let me start with what are the salient features of the fund management regulations. And this being an event where there are mutual funds, I'm also happy to tell you that finally the retail ecosystem has kicked off, which I'll mention after I probably recount what are the salient features. Now, when we consulted and we did get opinions from various people, it translated into the Fund Management Regulations 2025. Normally, a regulator makes changes to a regulation and then they appear as footnotes. But when the regulations changes to the regulations are quite large scale, it necessitates introduction of a completely new regulation in itself, and that is what happened with the Fund Management Regulations 2025. So essentially, we brought in lower entry barriers. The minimum corpus was reduced from 5 million USD to 3 million USD, and the PMS minimum investment amount was reduced to 75,000 USD, which was actually quite a lot of reduction. One of the things which we were requested by fund management entities was that, as in case of PPMs, in case of placement memoranda, there was a need to probably look at how the validity of a PPM. So what we did, we doubled the validity from 6 months, we have made it 12 months, and we are also revisiting it once again about the extension as far as this is concerned. So that is also something which would be of interest to you. And there are certain things as far as the key managerial personnel, but once again, we are also learning. While we brought in certain requirements for key managerial personnel, we found that probably many of the fund management entities had some issues with it, which again necessitated us to revisit, which we are again doing in the present consultation paper. Now, as far as investors are concerned, so no, for every jurisdiction, it is important that investors also have faith in the jurisdiction, which will lead to a strong environment. Because it's not just investment, it's also about safeguarding my investment. It's about getting a return on investment, and also about the fact that there needs to be disclosures on whatever I have made. So we have made disclosures also compulsory. Apart from that, we also have brought in certain specifications as far as what should be contained in the private placement memoranda, minimum disclosures. The same thing again applies for retail schemes and also mutual fund schemes, where we have specified what are the minimum things that have to be stipulated. While we don't offer, observations, it became a complete green channel, right? The last fund management regulations made the private placement memoranda for AIFs a complete green channel. However, for retail schemes, there's need for intervention because of the last mile investor, being the retail investor, investing in these products. So there we actually come in with a requirement for observations, but we have drastically reduced the time taken for issuing observations on all this. In between, we also brought in something called the single window IT system, a portal which has been designed to make your lives extremely simpler. So what we have done is that once an offer document is uploaded on this portal, it automatically goes to the various other regulators for the no objection certificates, which means that there is no need for a separate letter to be sent to each of these parties. So that has also reduced the time taken, for us to, to issue observations. Now, there are also certain things as far as the investments, maximum of 25% of the AUM has been permitted in certain requirements. The idea essentially was to reduce compliance costs, make it, ease of doing business. Interestingly, while we introduced these changes in the, fund management regulations, apart from that 100% thing, which I'll speak a little later, within just a few months, there was a request for two major changes, right? One was the requirement for a platform play. Now, a platform play is a third party fund management scheme, which is assigned to an existing fund manager. A fund manager agrees to manage third party funds separately. And that was something which we had approved. And this is something which has happened between the last consultation and this consultation paper, just to probably reinforce on this whole dynamism part. And similarly, we had also brought in this requirement, of co-investments, right, through a special purpose vehicle. So these things actually have happened over this period. Now, before I go into some other specifics, allow me to reel out some numbers, because numbers are quite important. And numbers are important because they actually show you the proof of whether the reforms which we set out to make, the things that we sort of, came out from the fund management entities are actually have actually worked or not. In fact, before I start, let me also tell you that the fund management ecosystem is possibly the most vibrant ecosystem here. And this year, with the 100% retail piece being approved and then in motion, we already have got three mutual funds who have already set up their funds, and the schemes have been rolled out. In fact, the investment limits for NRIs are as low as just $500, which means it's going to bring in a lot more participation. And the names which are trusted and also which are well regulated by the IFSCA, while I, of course, speak about supervision a little later, but that is also something which is going to give confidence to the investors to invest, in these funds. Now, the number of fund management entities, which was around 170, so which was 177 around in June 2025, has reached around 200 plus. As we speak today. After the September numbers are just not officially published, we have an official bulletin, but I can tell you that they have crossed 200. And the number of schemes, which was 272 at the end of June 2025, has crossed 300. So essentially, the two limits of 200 fund management entities and 300 funds has actually been crossed during this quarter alone. And I can tell you, almost 15 to 20 funds are approved every month by us. So that is the speed at which the funds are getting filed. And of course, these are all non-retail. When it comes to retail, 3 funds have been approved and there are more in the offing. And there was one requirement as far as the custodian was concerned. And that custodian thing, we had already given an extension. We have brought out some suggestions, the new regulation, which requires probably, we have given 2 more years of extension when it comes to appointment of a global custodian, which was one of the pet peeves of the mutual fund industry. So we heard them and we have done that. Of course, I can also tell you that there are a few custodians already in the GIFT City, and there is international custodians are also setting up shop, which will perhaps mitigate the need for you to go for a global custodian outside the GIFT City and instead opt for someone inside the GIFT City. Having everything inside the GIFT City actually gives you ease of coordination, and which is the reason why we are also trying to build in everything inside this ecosystem. One, of course, you have professionals. We have got chartered accountants, company secretaries, cost accountants, lawyers. All these people have set up shop, and they're also increasing. And also we have things like the TAS regulations, that TechFin and ancillary services regulations, which require professionals, which enable professionals to set up shop. So that ecosystem, which has probably shaped jurisdictions like Hong Kong or Singapore, actually is also happening inside the GIFT City. Because the other important thing, as far as the banking ecosystem is concerned, we have got banks from almost 14, 15 international jurisdictions, apart from which you also have Indian banks. A total of almost 35 to 40 banks are already here in the GIFT IFSC, which makes movement of money very simpler, at this place. Now, the total commitments raised, which were around 22 odd billion at the end of June 25, have crossed to almost 25 billion as we speak. In fact, the corpus, if I can actually say, it's almost 50 to 55 billion as we speak. So these are all things which are these numbers, which growing numbers, are actually indicative of the fact that the GIFT City is a flourishing ecosystem and it's actually going on as we speak. But the one other thing which was a request of all of you last time, which we have sort of addressed, is the video KYC process, which we brought in very recently. Last week, a circular was issued on this video KYC process. Almost 35 countries have been included, and these countries have been specifically chosen because of the presence of the Indian diaspora in these countries. So it's very easy for you to be onboarded as through as a client. The KYC process is so easy because if from anywhere in the world, if you are in these 35 countries, onboarding is easy. Of course, other countries also you can do, but that requires physical movement of documents. In case of these 35 countries, there is no physical movement of documents. The KYC can actually be done in a video mode. So that is going to help a lot of retail investors to invest in these schemes. So I believe that the mutual fund industry is going to see a huge jump from this year. Already we have seen three funds. Of course, it's not the amount of the ease with which an AF document can be filed and the PPM is markedly different from an offer document being filed for a mutual fund. There are a lot of other things that are needed, including the need to take the observations of IFSCA, the need of disclosures and other things are different. But this place will improve only when we are going to have a lot more mutual funds, a lot more retail participation, which is going to deepen the market. Now, 3 other things which are which also come to my mind. One is, of course, there is a need for, over a period of time, the first equity issue is going to start in this jurisdiction. In the next 1 month, we are going to have the first equity issue, which is a matter of interest and concern for us in a good way, because then that will require us to go for a granular supervision a lot more. Becomes a full-fledged regulator, because once equity takes off in a jurisdiction, then it means that there is going to be a lot more investment in this equity, and that is what we want funds to do. We want funds in this ecosystem to invest in instruments in this jurisdiction itself. We already have bonds to the tune of almost 70 billion, 70 to 75 billion US dollars, out of which sustainable funds with sustainable bonds which are available here are almost to the tune of almost $15 billion. So which means that there are already instruments for you to invest in the GIFT City. Once equity takes off, then obviously, apart from India being an attractive jurisdiction, it can be here also. Now, I'm also happy to tell you that there are ESG funds which have taken off. 3 ESG funds have taken off. We of course, this again is not a mutual fund thing, but this is something which I want to say because the players are almost the same. So we exempt the fee for the first 10 funds. 3 funds have already taken advantage of it. There are 7 more funds. So I would probably want you to sort of look at that also. Now, when it comes to what is going to be there as far as the future is concerned, we have been ironing out a lot of issues as far as tax is concerned. One of the biggest things that was needed was the 100% NRI investment which we did. We are also in talks with, of course, the government has been very kind enough to help us out and also look into various tax issues which probably might be, probably make the uptake slower. So those things are getting ironed out. So we are trying to do something on the outbound. So that is also something which should help once that is done. And also the section 9A of the Income Tax Act, where there has been some requests. There have been some requests from the fund management industry. So that is also something which we are sort of looking at. Now, where do we go from here as far as mutual funds are concerned? Mutual funds have taken off. That's the first good news that I'm giving you. Second is we are also looking at making changes to the fund management regulations. Once again, we have brought out a consultation paper. It's a 50-page consultation paper containing many proposals. Almost 16 to 17 proposals are already there. Now, apart from that, in case you have anything else also to ask us through the fund management consultation paper, particularly for mutual funds, please let us know. We'll be happy to sort of we'll be happy to look at them and iron them out. So that is also something which I'm leaving with you. Now, the next, then it also requires a granular supervision. This is what I wanted to tell you, and this probably I want to keep it as the last piece. While it is important to have growth, it is important to have vibrance. It is also important to have security, and this is where IFSCA as a regulator has been looking at the fund management ecosystem from a supervision perspective. So first thing what we have tried to do and we have tried to address, we have put out a press release also on that, which also made news on the fact that we were forced to take action against a few entities for not being present here. We want substance to be here in the IFSC, particularly for AIFs and mutual funds. Mutual funds in particular, in case you're going to do that, it is important that you have people here. And over a period of time, the fund management entities which are here have seen the advantages of being here and also the need to be here. And while the minimum mandate is only one PO and CO, there have been funds which are even having 5 to 10 people which are in this jurisdiction, which means that they have found the advantages. They have actually found out and they have been able to tap the advantages of being in this jurisdiction, which I would want all the fund management entities out there also to consider. So we have been going through granular inspections. Inspections happen first of all on an on-site basis. We go there and we supervise and look at whether these things are available when it comes to infrastructure, when it comes to PO, when it comes to CO, and other things, whether these are available at the jurisdiction. So this surprise visits are undertaken by IFSCA. These what we call as on-site supervision. Apart from that, the fund management entities are also mandated to file documents to us, returns to us every 3 months. Quarterly returns contain all the information about their operations and where are they going. So that information is also supervised, and then on that basis, questions are also asked. So our supervision team, though it's quite small, has been actually taking a lot of steps in ensuring that, because what is important for an investor is that the investment is safe. The movement of a market is something else. That is something in which no one, including the regulator, has any control over. But what is important is, as an investor is concerned, is whether the money, the procedures followed are up to the mark, and whether I am getting information, I am getting disclosures. So these are the things which are actually ensured by our regulations and our supervision. So that is something which should give comfort to the investors. Now, where do we go from here? We'll continue to work with you. There are many things which can actually be done. We are trying to imbibe a lot of international practices. We have also been rated by the IOSCO in principle 6 and 7 as being one of the regulators to watch out for. And now we have also looked at principles 10 to 12 on various issues like supervision, etc., and enforcement. So hopefully that makes us the regulator which can be trustworthy as far as the investors are concerned. So this is where we will go. We once again request you to offer comments, help us to strengthen this jurisdiction, and we would also want your support as we go from here. The only way, as I always keep saying, is up, and we'll continue to do that. The numbers are perfect proof of showing that where we have actually gone when it comes to compare last year to this year. And I hope I'll be able to come next year and show you the numbers, which will be proof of where we have gone from this year to next year. So that is something which I'll be happy to share with. Continue to look at our bulletins. We have our bulletins which we put out every 3 months. There are other publications on fund management which are also out. Please feel free to share your thoughts and opinions with us. We are certainly happy to take them into account and make changes and embellish the ecosystem here. I wish the conference all success. Thank you.